Congress returns to session on Monday, and atop the agenda, gun control brought back into the spotlight after 3 mass shootings in August alone left nearly 40 people dead. But so far, there's no action, only waffling from the president on any potential legislation. And yesterday, Trump met with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin to discuss the issue. But those hoping for drastic action will likely be disappointed by that. New York Times reports, quote, President Trump assured Manchin on Thursday that he was still considering legislation that could include background checks for gun buyers. But those familiar with the meeting said the president's likeliest course of action was a menu of smaller items, like a slimmer version of a background check bill and red flag laws, which allow the authorities to temporarily confiscate firearms from those who are found by a judge to be a danger to themselves or others. The potential reasoning behind those weaker actions, the Times adds, according to 2 people briefed on the meeting, quote, the White House aides say they had polling data showing that gun control was politically problematic for the president. Joining us now, Congressman Eric Swalwell, a member of both the House Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Congressman, it's nice to see you again.
You too, Nicole. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. You made your presidential campaign about this really intractable place where any sort of reforms, even those with 90% support among the American general public, what do you see this string of mass shootings here in the final month of summer as shaking loose anything in Washington?
It's shaking loose people across the country, and we can't wait for Washington any longer. We certainly can't wait for the president or Mitch McConnell. So I'm heartened to see that because of the work of Moms Demand Action and so many other organizations, retailers are now saying, don't bring your open carry firearms into our stores. And that shows the power that we have as consumers, that we don't have to just rely on Washington. We can demand that retailers in places where we go, that they can keep us safe too. Also, just to take count, we beat 17 NRA-endorsed members of Congress in the last election. That's what allowed us to pass background checks in the House. And when I step back and look at what we can do, I don't want us to nibble around the edges because the momentum is with us. The NRA is on the ropes. We shouldn't just go for background checks. We should go to put liability on manufacturers. We should require licensing, insurance, ban and buy back every single assault weapon, and know that the public is entirely behind us.
Let me just put up the names of the company. You mentioned the companies that ask customers to stop carrying weapons in their stores. It's Walmart, Kroger, Walgreens, CVS, and Wegmans. I know these are stores that take very seriously the sort of views and opinions of their customers. If you could argue that the customers of all those retailers supported some common sense gun reforms, could you argue that the public opinion is moving in favor of people who want just some common sense things like background checks and red flag laws and a waiting period and closing some of the loopholes?
It is there. And actually, I would suggest it's always been there. But the NRA has been this vocal, tweeting, bullying minority. And I learned on the campaign trail, we don't have to fear them anymore. That you show up to events, and I would see the Moms Demand Action volunteers there with their shirts. You'd see the Brady and the Giffords group and the March for Our Lives kids. And they're going to have our back, and you should fear them a lot more now. And actually, the spending in the last election, there was more money spent by gun safety groups than the NRA. So I see the NRA as an organization that is in its last days, and so there's no reason for us to negotiate down anymore. And we should really seize the momentum.
Let me turn to your role on the Judiciary Committee and the Intel Committee. A very packed schedule. I think a lot of Democrats disappointed by the post-Mueller outcome, which was basically nothing. What is the plan for September to either refocus the public's attention on some of the witnesses, star witnesses in the Mueller report, or around news reports over the summer that he promised pardons to people who illegally built his wall? And I've also seen reports about bringing the illegal hush money scheme that the Southern District of New York prosecuted back into focus.
Yeah, we're going to hold accountable a lawless president, and one of the remedies is impeachment. Now, Nicole, here's where Donald Trump benefits, and I urge my colleagues to not let him have this benefit. He will tell everyone impeachment is politically unpopular, and then that will get in the heads of folks, and they'll think, oh, there'll be a political consequence if we do that. And then he'll also order his witnesses to not come forward, so it's harder to inform the public as to what exactly he and his aides have done. And so they put us in this conundrum where it's hard to explain to the public and the evidence is buried. But obstruction of Congress is also an impeachable offense. And if he's going to bury the evidence, we should just assume he's doing it because he has a lot to hide and it goes to his guilt. And I just believe doing nothing is not an option. If we do nothing, one, he gets worse, and he is getting worse. And two, it shows future presidents that the standard of conduct is much lower. It's not a position we've asked for, but it's a position that we're in. And I think we have to hold him accountable. And you're going to see that in the next few weeks.
Do you understand, though, why some Democrats feel like you missed the moment when the Southern District of New York described Donald Trump as an unindicted co-conspirator in an illegal hush money scheme, and when Robert Mueller found 10 criminal acts of obstruction of justice?
Yeah, I get the frustration, and this hasn't moved as fast as I want. And, you know, honestly, Nicole, he is getting worse every single day, and he's just got to go. But we've got to do it the right way, and I think we can't wait for court rulings. That's going to take a long time. If he's just not going to abide by the law, we should put forth an obstruction of Congress as one of the articles of impeachment as well. And one other point, Nicole, he benefits so often from trying to get in our head and stop us from doing the right thing. Think about Russia. When the Russians were interfering in the 2016 election, Donald Trump was saying the election's going to be rigged, the election's going to be rigged. And what happened? The Obama administration was a little, reluctant to call out Russia, and who knows what the effect was because what the Russians did. They didn't want to play into Donald Trump's claims. Bob Mueller testified that he did not interview Donald Trump because, in part, it was going to take too long, and Donald Trump had been saying forever and over that this investigation is going on. And so he got in Bob Mueller's head, and he was not interviewed. So, again, we can't let Donald Trump dictate the terms. We should dictate the terms, and we should hold him accountable.
Just real quick, can you name names? Who's coming? Has anyone accepted your offers to testify?
Well, as you know, we want Corey Lewandowski, we want Rob Porter, of course, we want Don McGahn, and those are folks who we continue to seek, Hope Hicks as well. But again, if they're not going to come in, if they're just going to obstruct, then I say just put that in the bucket of obstruction of Congress and impeach him under those grounds.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.